Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. And I have a very special video today. This is not the Real Hernando podcast. This is not the Rhythm Section podcast, but I am using the studio today to create some special content for my good friend here, Angee Montgomery. She is an artist here in Hernando. She has her own studio. Up until recently, she was an instructor or an art teacher for private lessons, right? And paintings for sale. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to introduce you to Angee. We're going to get to know each other a little bit and talk, so you get to know her. And then we have paintings that we're going to show off. We got a painting set to my left here with its own camera, so we're going to edit them in as we go, as Angee tells the story behind these. And I'm just going to sit here and act like I know what I'm doing and ask questions. So Angee, thanks for being here and thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Derrick. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about painting.
Yeah. You know, this is an idea I had as soon as I knew that the studio is operating, and I just want to come in here and use it. Right. Yeah. And build my own portfolio, because in a way, producing content like this is sort of my art, I guess. So I just wanted to do this for you and help you out, you know, and then also gives me a chance to play with my toys.
Yep, I got it. I'm really excited.
So, okay. So, gosh, let's talk about where you're from.
Okay.
Let's start there.
I'm from Mississippi. I grew up outside of Sardis, which is not too far from here. And, yeah.
So I've swam at that lake a few times. Lake. Yeah, a long time ago. But so did you study art in school?
I did. One of my students recently asked me when I felt like I was an artist, because she said, I just don't feel like an artist yet. I'm not an artist yet. When did you feel like you were an artist? And for me, it was 5 years old.
Okay.
I think I declared to my grandmother and my mom and my dad that I was an artist at 5. So it's been a part of my identity since I was very young. And I did end up going to school for art after I went to school for a lot of other things, because life gets in the way. And
you feel like you have to have that backup plan, right? So you go to school, or did you take business type classes as a way to?
I did not. I always wanted to go to art school, but my parents didn't want me to go to art school because I had a kid pretty young. So they begged me at graduation, "Don't do it, Angee. Find something else."
Yeah.
So I went into science. Actually, I almost got a degree in sonography. What's that? It's doing ultrasounds. So looking.
Oh, wow.
Taking pictures, looking into the body with
interesting.
Yeah.
That's definitely different than what you do.
Well, you would think, but I think art and science are very closely related.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think now more than ever, like I just said earlier, I'm finally finding my art in a way. I'm like, oh, I like building things in a different way. I do like making content, but in my way, how I envision things, just like this, you know. But I am left brain to the tilt too. Like my brain is rows and columns, ones and zeros, you know?
Yeah.
But
it's still the same. It's still the same. Even, you know, with artwork, I'm trying to get at something that's some sort of common thread between all of us humans, right? The way we live here. And you're doing the same thing. Connecting
really
with
trying
people.
To connect with people. I'm using this for community in a lot of different ways, you know, which is nice. It's fulfilling,
right?
You know. Well, look, okay, I don't want to keep people waiting, so I think as we show paintings through that, we're going to get to know more of you too through that journey here. So before we get to paintings, let's talk about sculptures. You brought some sculptures, examples of sculptures in, and that's where you wanted to start. So at this point, I'm going to let you kind of run the show. You show what you want. I'll ask questions, and then we'll move to the next thing when you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. So just to give a little context for what I do now, when I was in high school, I learned how to paint.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first thing I learned how to do. I was always very interested in drawing. But once I got to college, I felt like, okay, I know how to do that. I was like a kid in a candy store, and I just wanted to try out everything else. So I actually ended up getting a degree in sculpture. And all of the work that I did in college was form-based.
Okay.
So I just brought a couple. The first two I want to look at are these eggs. Yeah, so eggs and lips. And it doesn't matter how long you've been an artist. I think you still make the same kind of stuff that you did when you were a kid, even once you get older. Mm-hmm. You'll try out different things, but eventually you just keep cycling around these same subjects and same ideas because there's something in there that you want to get out. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was always interested in just the body and using different elements that I saw around me to try to tell stories.
Okay. So what's the story here?
So I made a ton of these. The bottom ones they're ceramic, they're eggs. And I was always really interested in this egg form. For me, I think I cycled between a lot of feminine aspects and bodily aspects and then domestic things because I went from childhood straight to motherhood. There was never an in-between phase to try to figure out who I was or travel or...
You had to grow up immediately. But yeah, you skipped over the...
I did, but at the same time, I had a big imagination. And then I got to relive that childhood imaginative stage with my daughter when she was younger. So even my 20s I was a mom, right? And she was a playful little girl with a big imagination too. So we played a lot.
That's nice. You had that in common.
Yeah. So the eggs, I think eggs are really interesting. They've been used a lot in art. They symbolize new beginnings.
Yeah.
They're also kind of like creative fire points. They're dormant ideas until you set something into motion.
Man, that's deep. You're taking us deep. It's just cool to hear the inside of an artist's brain like that. Because you and I have hung out quite a few times by this point, and you're going deeper than normal. It's cool. I'm really getting a glimpse of how this works. But
they're also fun if you're a gamer, right? Finding an Easter egg in a game, or if you have chickens, like the whole surprise of, oh my gosh, she laid today.
I thought the rabbits did that.
No, the chickens.
So the chickens do the Easter eggs too?
Yes, they do. Damn. Yeah, exactly.
All this time. So
yeah, I like to use forms that have some sort of a history. Not that I'm trying to find their symbolic meaning according to any one thing. I'm trying to think about how they relate to my life or other people's lives or how they've been used so far in the world. So the eggs, I don't have them. I gave them all away. And my whole plan was I'll go on an Easter egg hunt later in life and reconnect with the people I gave the art to.
That's funny. Yeah. So what about the what are those eyes?
I call them lip bugs.
Lip bugs.
They're a lip form. They're made of plaster and wax and false eyelashes. I liked using different forms and materials and putting them together to see what type of story or question I could ask. For me, I was always very interested in visuals opposed to words. So I thought it was interesting to make some sort of form that looked like an eye, yet a mouth, how we communicate and how we take in information.
Because you definitely listen with your eyes, so you could do like hairy ears, right? But hairy lips, eyelash on lips.
But they also look like their own type of creature. Which
they do. Like, especially the top right hand corner. That looks like a something that'd be walking across your floor.
Right. Which is why I called them lip bugs.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're playful. They're me questioning forms and materials and trying to see what type of story I can spin. I
had a house in Memphis that had that top right-hand corner lip bug.
It did.
Yeah, for
Caterpillar.
Sure. So as we go through these, we're also trying to sell this stuff, right? And part of this is should have done this on the front end, but what's your website?
My website is my name. It's AngeeMontgomery.com.
And of course, that'll be in the description. So as we go through these, I'll ask if it's for sale or not. And if it is, then you can talk about price, or people can just go to the website and find it. But the purpose of this is also to not only share Angee's story and learning, just kind of look inside the brain of an artist like yourself. But we're also here to help support her financially, monetarily. And these are for sale. As we go through these, and Angee says this one's for sale, we want to help support a hardworking local artist. That'd be the best way to do it. So,
or if these stories connect to your own.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. There's the story side too. I'm not trying to make this sterile business here, but it's part of it. It is part of it.
Usually when my art sells, it's because it's hit somebody in the heart somehow. Mm-hmm. They've connected to the story, and it relates to their own in some way.
Yep.
Let's look at just 2 more sculptures.
Okay.
This is a bronze figure.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually one of the first pieces I made in school, trying to figure out the bronze casting method.
That's really cool.
And I think it shows maybe the sensitive side. I'm trying to hit it something a little bit more emotional.
Is that why the arms are crossed?
I think it relates to how I felt at the time as a young adult. And
how old were you when you did it?
Early 20s, maybe 20, 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
So shy, doesn't know a lot of things.
Yeah. Were you closed off?
Closed off, yes.
Introverted?
Definitely.
On guard. Yeah, I can relate to all of those.
But
anyone, all the people that listen to my videos, they know all about my social anxiety and all that stuff. So I can relate to that.
Yeah. So playing with body language, poses, arms crossed, downward looking.
Yeah.
Also playing with texture in this, which I was always really interested in. You not only have the form, but also the texture that's making up the skin of the form.
Mm-hmm.
And for this in particular, I really wanted it to look like water, like waves. And I patinaed the sculpture to give that effect as well.
That's cool. The first thought that comes to my mind, because I like the water down a brook. You got to be flexible in life. You're going to hit rocks and you just bounce off it, and you just keep flowing. And you keep flowing down, and you're carving a path. It's water carves. So when you said that you wanted it to look like water, do you think? I mean, it's my interpretation. That's part of art, right?
I know. I think that's so interesting. I love to hear other people's.
I wonder if with all that closed offness, maybe subconsciously you did that because you're trying to be flexible, or
I think water is renewing.
Okay.
I quite frequently, to change my frame of mind, I'll take a shower or a bath. I think a lot of people do that to relax and
I take showers too.
Reset your mind a little bit, or the feeling of being in an ocean, being completely consumed, or being underwater.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different.
I grew up on water. I grew up in Maine, 30 minutes from the ocean. So when I go home, I have to put my feet in the water.
Yeah.
I love being on a lake. The lakes are beautiful up there. I love sitting and just watching water. So yeah, it's rejuvenating, not just by drinking it.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think it's interesting the way that you thought about it, carving out a path.
Yeah.
Or changing, constant change.
Just having to hit a bump in the road and figure out a solution to get around it or go over it. You know, sometimes under it. Who knows? But all right. So is that available on your website?
Unfortunately, none of the sculptures are available.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
They all belong to homes at this point. So this is a 12-foot broom. And
12 feet?
It's 12 feet tall.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. There's going to be a meaning behind the size, right?
Yes.
Okay. But I'll let you tell the story here.
So like I said before, I wanted to show these because I think that the forms and the objects I was choosing early on, I just keep recycling them in my work. And the broom I used a lot because it's home, it's domestic, it's cleaning. I had another aspect to this piece I wanted to add. It was a full room installation, and I wanted to make these little resin balls and put things inside of them to cover the floor. So you not only, monumentalize the broom, but also what is it? What are those little things in life that you're constantly trying to tidy up?
Interesting. Yeah, cleaning up the I don't know what I'm trying to say and think. It's like the little problems in life that are just kind of, that's where I'm going with it.
But also your daily habits as a mom or anybody who owns a house or has to maintain a residence. I think the domestic quality of the broom was really interesting to me. And then the pieces that make it up, I actually went out to where I grew up and collected all those strands and weaved them together. So thinking about the material, how it's made, what it's made of, all of that can go into
a big connection to a certain period of your life.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, does it make you think of that same era of your life?
Yes.
Like that's what music does for me.
Definitely.
It can take me back to a memory every time. It's consistent to that memory, or it's consistent to that moment of my life. I know personally, when I look at that in terms of, domestic, the literal use of a broom, washing dishes or sweeping the kitchen floor or is some form of cleaning in a way is therapeutic for me.
It is.
Because and as much as I disagree and I feel like I defy this law, you can only have one thought at a time. I feel like I defy that. I defy science. I swear I do. But when I'm washing the dishes and I'm just focusing on the repetition of it, and it's just like wash, rinse, rack, repeat, it's just calms my brain down a little bit.
My friends tell me that they can always tell when Angee's angry because she starts incessantly cleaning everything,
scrubbing the tub, and but I'm not an overly neat freak, but I definitely like everything having its place and everything in its place to a degree. So let's talk about this piece.
Okay, it's called nesting.
Nesting. Okay.
Yes. So I think as an artist, you create, or even as a person, anyone who wants to create things, you usually create from the brain because you're really interested in it, or you create from the heart because you love something or you love someone and you want to give them a gift or make an action towards that thing that you love, or it's a mixture of all those things.
Yeah, because you get the eggs in there, right?
Right. So you see things recycling.
Is that a connection to this? Like, yeah, that's a connection to a sculpture, but it's a connection to your life and how you feel things, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's just some of your personality is just carried over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My aesthetics, my personality, but also this piece in particular, I was riffing off of a pretty famous sculpture called the Crouching Venus.
Crouching Venus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Well, For anyone who loves art history, you see Venus, you see a lot of goddesses, mythology. Usually, if you look at art history, you'll see mythology first, then religious paintings, and then people start going into more inner, how they're feeling, inner psychology. But early paintings, Renaissance paintings, and beyond, they use a lot of these mythological stories. So the Venus and Aphrodite are both goddesses. Venus is they're both counterparts, right? So Aphrodite and Venus, they both represent love and beauty. But Aphrodite is more of eternal, everlasting youth and desire, whereas Venus is more of the decent, modest, wifey goddess.
Okay.
So I love this sculpture. If you look at sculptures of Aphrodite, she's fearless and showing everything. But the Venus, the sculpture is called Crouching Venus, and she's surprised while bathing. And she's so surprised, she's trying to crisscross her arms and cover herself up. Maybe
because she saw a reflection?
No, because she didn't want people to see her nude.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, no,
that part too, but maybe because there's no other people there. So maybe she saw herself. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm here to bring the dumb side of this. No, but
it's oh my gosh, look at these parts I have.
So the hair.
Yes.
So is that symbolize their connection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the same person. They're both the Crouching Venus.
Oh, okay.
They're just tilted at different angles, but I wanted it to be their connection. Yes.
So people might be interested also in the material. What's the style of painting? What kind of paint did you use? And let's talk about the size so they can get an idea, because maybe through video they can't really tell. I mean, it looks like a big picture, a big painting. But so yeah, what's the size and materials that you used for it?
So it's a wood panel. I made the panel, and it's an oil painting. The size is 4 feet wide, about 32 inches tall. And because of my sculpture background, I've always been really interested in the two stories you tell when you're building a piece, right? The story you tell with the subjects, but also the one you tell with how you build the piece. So this one and a few other pieces, I was playing with leaving parts of the wood substrate raw underneath.
Oh, okay.
So the figures, the eggs, they're all showing the wood grain coming through.
Awesome. Okay, yeah.
And everything else is painted.
Very cool. Now that you point that out, I can see
opacity. So the paint I'm using for those is all translucent. You're translucent earth tones and translucent whites, whereas everything else is more opaque.
That's so cool. I mean, the art is as deep as the canvas it's on. The canvas is a part of it too. Or I know it's not a canvas, but you know what I'm saying. My layman terms of art, the physical that the paint lays on top of is now a part of it. It's not just covered up. That's really neat. But it looks great because you still add some shading, right? It looks like you did, right? It's to make everything work.
I hope they look sculptural.
Yeah. Yeah. You can see the grain of the wood. It's really cool.
So I never took a painting class in school. All of my skills is from private lessons when I was younger and workshops. So I paint kind of like I sculpt in a way.
Okay.
Or I've thought about painting like sculpting.
Okay. That's cool.
But the hair is another subject that I've used a lot. I think it too is really interesting because it's internal and external. Science fact, it holds your DNA, right? I think most people know that.
What does?
Hair does.
Oh, yeah.
It holds your DNA. It also is the way that we express our identities. We cut it, we dye it, we try to shape it to show who we are, who we want to be.
Yeah.
And it keeps growing after you die. Did you know that?
That and teeth, right? The teeth don't rot. The teeth
I
just
think so.
stay.
So if you find a mummy, they'll still have long hair and teeth. Yes,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
All right. So what is that?
It's a landscape, Derrick.
You were like, Derrick, it's a painting.
It's a painting on linen this time, not wood.
On what this time?
Linen.
Okay.
Linen.
All right.
Like canvas.
And it's got a cool wooden frame.
Yep. It has a handmade frame.
Handmade, of course.
Of course. Everything's handmade, hand stretched, all the good stuff. So
what's it called?
It's called Honey Hole.
Honey Hole. Okay. I don't know why I repeated it that way. Hole as in like a whole piece or a hole like in the ground?
Well, you know what a honey hole is, right?
Now that you say it that way, it makes sense. Yeah. So it's a hole, like a whole hole. So it's spelled H-O-L-E.
It's like a place
full
of honey is sweet. Or it's like the sweet spot you go that nobody else knows about. It's your honey hole. It's a place you return to again and again.
Is that a Southern saying?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Maybe. Is it like lollygagging? The things that are only said in the South?
It could be. It could be a Southern saying.
So this is a honey hole. So this is a happy place.
Exactly.
Right. For whoever is attracted to it and is comfortable there. Yeah.
Right. So the previous piece, it was built mostly from my imagination or appropriation, a mixture of all those things. This is a real place that I went to.
Okay.
So the starting point was very different. It's Arkabutla Lake for anyone who's local. It's
a big lake that has several different boat launches and areas to swim. Oh, there's a couple areas to swim, I believe, too. But yeah, it's a massive lake near Hernando and down to Tate County, right? Coldwater,
right,
Mississippi. But yeah, so what part, and this is super local, most audience doesn't know what we're talking about, but that's fine. I'm interested in where on Arkabutla was this? What area?
So I love the water. I love lakes. I grew up around them. I like to kayak in the summer times. So I found this honey hole spot when I was putting my kayak in the water. And it was so pretty that I went back again and again and again, to the point where I started dragging all my studio supplies down there and trying to capture this one little space.
So you painted there?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I did. I painted small stuff there. I made a lot of sketches there. Gotcha. I took video footage there. So this particular time of day and at the lake, the water was really low. It was early spring. So it was right in the tree line. But since the tree line is usually underwater, the whole floor of the forest at that point was dirt. But it was bright springtime sun. So it was one of those magical places.
Sure. But you felt it.
Yeah, I felt it.
It's a feeling, and that's all it took. That's all you needed to know.
Right.
You had the honey hole feeling.
I did. It was love at first sight. So.
Oh, now what was it? Pleasant Hill? What part, or is it? Did you not want to tell? Was it a secret?
It's not, but I'm gonna mispronounce. I actually saved the location on my maps and my phone. So,
okay. Yeah. it's all good.
I'll tell you later. Right, I'll show you maybe.
I'll know the secret passcode to the honey hole.
Exactly.
So how big is it? What's the size for this one?
This one is about the same. It's about 4 feet.
It seems bigger than the last one. Maybe is it the wooden frame that makes it look bigger?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a little bigger, but about the same size as the last one.
So what's that white? What's that white right there?
It's water.
So there's like a wave, like a crashing. That's the crash. So the water's coming from right to left. And then, because Arkabutla, they open up the dam at certain times of the year, and they basically empty it out, right?
Yeah, they use the dam to.
Yeah. So no, I mean, if you go to the Pleasant Hill boat launch, then you could walk across one of the sections, you know, if you wanted to. It's weird how they do that, but
it was really pretty. The wind was blowing. There was a bunch of boats whizzing by that day, so the waves kept lapping into the shore, you know, the tree line.
Yep.
But I was really interested in the look of the trees, the gesture. They looked human.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any leaves on them, so
like arms sticking out.
Yeah, they're really interesting. So when I built this piece, obviously it doesn't look like, it's not naturalistic.
Okay.
The colors are not naturalistic. It's hard to tell what it is at first because it's very abstract. But my motivation was to show the movement inside the place. So the wave crashing, the lines coming across the painting, the trees going up.
Yeah, I like the trees coming out of the water.
And the lakes here are brown. There's a lot of little particles in them. So for the color of this, I wanted to humanize it in a way. And it's painted with flesh tones.
Okay.
Like layers and layers of flesh tones over a really bright underpainting. So if you look close, you can see a lot of blues and pinks coming through. But I guess I kind of thought of it like a skin. I wanted to cloak the painting with that fleshy skin, but also kind of speak to.
That's interesting.
The muddy water.
It's interesting. You're connecting it to the human body.
It's a theme for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I really like it. I like that. I know that it's Arcobutla, and maybe I'll know where the honey hole is.
I might show you. So I do want to say for this, I did a lot of sketching in the studio prior to making this. I mean, big sketching. So I have this huge roll of craft paper from Home Depot that I can tape to the wall. And I really wanted to get my whole body into it, which is why I like to work big like this sometimes, because it feels different than working small with a bunch of tiny paintbrushes. If you draw with your whole arm, you know, reaching up, you get a different sensation in the work than if you would just
you know, you never think of that as an artist. You're also feeling the activity, the actual action you're taking to do it. That's really cool to know. Because especially, I'm sure, because I know you've done murals, right? Or you've done one here that I know of. You know, literally broad strokes, right? Where does that put you, like, emotionally, or does it relax you to have that big of a canvas?
Well, I think it just feels good to get physical with whatever you're making.
Yeah.
And as a musician, you know that music can put you into a certain mood. It's why people dance. And sometimes I like to think of, you know, making these strokes like dancing or putting on a song, and that can come through whatever you're making. The presence that you're feeling at the moment can show through in the marks that you make on a canvas.
Absolutely. If you're in a good mood and you just flicking the hand, and I'm always going to apologize for my lack of terminology. Like I said, I bring the dumb to the room here. That's why I'm asking dumb questions. But hey, I'm curious, right? Yeah, I can see that. Again, it's all about you connecting to it, and your personality is in all of it. So that's great.
Getting your presence into the piece.
Yeah, giving it that feel.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we have here? What is this?
So I'm trying to walk you through the different methods or modes that I would go to making something. So the nesting piece was imagination. The honey hole was inspired by life, but also highly altered by imagination. This piece was done solely from life. There was no aid in photography. It is what it is, and it was real. And
in front of you when you painted it?
And in front of me.
So what's the name of it?
It's called New Year's Birthdays.
Why did you want to do something that was more direct like that?
Because it's completely real. It's completely alive and good for your mental health not to source everything from inside your head. It's good to get out of yourself and observe other things for a bit. So when you use photography is great. It makes things very simple for artists. It makes a still image. Nothing's moving. Can draw from it very easily. When you're painting something from life, even if it's still, it's not still. The light's changing, the shadows are moving, the flowers are slowly dying. So what you end up with is a little container for that specific moment.
Do you feel urgency?
Yes.
So does that add some character into it? Maybe like, again, earlier we were talking about, painting with stride in a way, right? With this kind of urgency, because you don't want to lose good lighting. Does that affect the actual physical connection between brush and canvas? Does that make sense?
Well, you're not lollygagging, right? You can take your time if you have pictures and you're experimenting. You can take a month or a year with something that's in front of you. You really just have 2 to 3 hours.
Game on.
That's it. It must be done in that time.
It's all business.
Exactly.
You gotta roll. Yeah.
So this piece, I'm pretty sentimental if you can't tell by now. This piece was special to me because it contains things that were left over from mine and my daughter's birthdays. We're 5 days apart. But, those are my flower bouquets and her balloons. So
that family, connection with daughter, and
But also the time of year. So since it's painted from life, it's winter, right? My birthday is at the very end of December, and hers is the beginning of January.
Mine's January 2nd.
Is it?
So do I fall in between somewhere?
Yes, hers is the 4th.
All right.
Yeah. Mine's the 30th. So during this time, it was earlier this year. There was a snowstorm. So the light outside was cool and bright, and I was really trying to get that quality of light within the piece. So it was all set up next to the window.
So did the weather and that natural atmosphere, was that the beginning of the inspiration to then, I could do a painting right now that would go well with outdoors? Or was this already planned and then just some synergy with
it was more visual. I wasn't really thinking about, I wanted to do a painting. I wanted to use these like really beautiful flowers, and I loved the bright,
but did you
reflective nature of the
specifically
balloons.
Painted the day you did because of the natural lighting, right?
Well, I always use natural lighting if I'm painting from life.
Yeah, but that day was better.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of sentimental in a way because we're always excited. We're celebrating. It's our birthdays, but at the same time, it's cold and gray and every single year.
You just got over the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty though. So how long did it take you to do? Paint, I should say.
3 hours. I'm sure I kept working at it after.
You touch it up, little touch ups here. And what size is that now? Roughly, I don't. Would you say that's like 1 foot wide and 18 inches tall or something?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
it's a nice little piece though. I like it.
Thank you.
The red pops because everything. Well, you got the green as well. And before I start talking about colors, though, I'm colorblind, so I have no business talking
You're
colors.
You're right. I was surprised.
But
I was like, you can tell colors.
Yeah,
that is red. Good job.
I really like the purple. Wait a minute, no. But
it's cool. It's cool. So it is a purple tone.
Oh, I was kidding, but yeah, I can see that right there. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Look at that.
Exactly.
My daughter's taught me well.
Yeah, because the red's mixing with the blue.
She's always correcting me. Dad, that's purple, not blue. Okay, thank you. So, so what inspired you to do this?
just the scene itself. And, you know, again, I'm going back to these places that feel like home, not just the domestic sphere, but home life. When I was younger, I really hated the fact that I had a kid so early. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was robbed, right? That I was watching all these people that were, you know, that I went to school with, and they were traveling and they were having adventures. And I was a mom, and I was stuck here in Mississippi, which I never wanted to be in. I wanted to be somewhere else because, you know, the grass is always greener, right?
Right.
But
yeah, I did that. I moved 1,000 miles away from where I grew up.
Exactly. That was the dream.
Yeah.
You know? So, but at this point, I think as an artist, one of the things that we do, especially as a painter, someone who works from visuals and, you know, their objective reality or their internal reality, they're always searching out something that they find beautiful. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not necessarily beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. We make things beautiful. We spend time looking closer at subjects to the point where we give them new meanings, right? We help people see something that they might not have seen before when they looked at a red balloon. Mm-hmm. So for me, you know, I've been making pieces from my reality as a child or as a mom or a person who lives in the South, mm-hmm. just what I have in front of me. And the more that I look for that beauty here, the more that I find. So at this point, you know, traveling or making pictures of things that are outside of my little circle are not interesting to me at all. I just want to keep digging deeper and deeper into mm-hmm. what it is to be here. What is here? My current life.
It's deep.
I don't mean to be deep.
No, you're an artist. That's awesome.
That's just how I think. So, mm-hmm. so this is Avery reading on the porch, and mm-hmm. I played with it. Right, I got really playful. It's cut paper collage. It's a sketch.
Okay.
But I am obsessed with this composition. One, because again, it's the house, you're enclosed, but it also shows a little bit of the landscape, mm-hmm. the natural elements.
She's on a swing.
She's reading.
Reading.
What you don't see in the picture is actually the dogs are looking out the window. So, you know, you got this separation of space inside the house, what's going on, mm-hmm. this little liminal, you know, in between space of her on the porch and then the outer world. Mm-hmm. So it's something I'm interested in pursuing more. Like, how can I keep looking at my life, the home, and keep searching out identity through that?
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's because you skipped over that part? Right.
The whole identity part?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
You had to raise a child. Mm-hmm. And you were looking to find that connection, right? And you're doing it through art. So your daughter symbolizes that span of time.
Right.
Because 15 years later, you know.
Exactly.
I know what it's like to raise a teenager. There's there's a journey.
It is
we'll
a
just
journey.
say, you know. So on a technical front, did you ask her to sit there, or did you just capture?
I snuck up on her.
So when you do that, you do a quick sketch, and then after that, at that point, you just separate from the actual scenery, right? Because she's going to move and leave, right? You didn't ask her to sit there for
right. So it's a photograph, but it's
so you just snapped a shot and took it with.
But it's my porch. Yeah. So I can imagine going back to this mm-hmm. space in the summer mm-hmm. and working from life, capturing that scene, mm-hmm. and then just putting her in there, you know,
yep.
using both, mm-hmm. working from what I see and trying to contain that space and the colors, but also, you know, utilizing the tools I have today.
Yeah.
Because
Each piece is in its moment, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So here's another home scene. This is my dog, Dexter, in the bed. This is my view every single night, right? I crawl in bed. He crawls right in front of me and lays on my feet. But visually, this is another study that I'm obsessed with the components of it, and not so much symbolically or the subject matter, but what's actually happening, right? I love the porch scene because of how the space was divided. This one, I really love the patterning inside the quilts, and I could see being able to play with that more with paint and bringing out those textures, or putting in different patterns inside of there to kind of give another layer of meaning.
Even in your bed blankets, you're putting meaning into them.
I do.
The first thing I noticed is Dexter's eyes are bright to me, and as though, like, you know how some dogs, when you look at a photograph, the flash just like makes their eyes pop and glow.
It wasn't on purpose. I think I just stopped painting.
But it looks cool. It looks like your dog looked and you snapped a shot with the flash. Bam.
Because it was a sketch, I didn't bring it up to any finish. I was like, I'm just trying to capture something here.
So what kind of dog is Dexter, and how old is he?
He's a blue heeler. He is a year and a half, so he's really young.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love dogs. I have allergies, so unfortunately, I've yet to have one of my own. But, well, I take that back. When my daughter was younger, we had a Shih Tzu, Dee Dee. And Shih Tzus are part of the poodle family, so it's hyperallergenic. So I loved that. It was great. But the dog went back and forth between mom and dad with her. Right. So I was a part-time dog owner, but it was great. But now it's just like, I'd love to have my own dog, but anything in the doodle family is expensive. It's hard to rescue. They don't have, those aren't typically in rescue facilities because they're typically treated better, Right. But anyways, this isn't about dogs. This is about art here. So
right. And then I wanted to show two more that are more imaginative based. So
after this one, so
after this one, yeah.
We got. Is that Dexter again?
It is Dexter.
Okay. And where is Dexter? It looks like that looks like it'd be like Colorado or something as you're heading west.
I think it could be.
Because I've traveled all over because of music. I forget the highway that goes east to west, but it's great because as you're going through, Missouri, Kansas, Utah, it's flat. Well, not Utah, but as you're going through the Midwest and heading into the West,
and then you slowly start to see the blue mountain range.
You see the mountain range, yeah. And then there's a highway. I think it's 5 that goes north and south. So you're going north. You look to your left, and it's just this beautiful, continuous mountain range. And then you look to the right, and it's as far as you can see. It's really wild. So that's the first thing that pops in my mind. That looks like Colorado.
Yeah. I have an aunt that lives in Colorado. It's been my dream to live there. Maybe it'll happen one day.
It's beautiful. It is. The air is crisp and dry, which is nice if you have allergies. I experienced that part too. You get used to the elevation, then but.
So this is a teeny tiny little sketch. It's like a 4x6 inch.
Okay.
It does have Dexter. It has some rabbits in there, if you can tell. And then
right there on the bottom right hand corner.
And then a chair. Another domestic element. I'm not sure why, but I think that combining these natural things like animals and the natural elements outside, the water, the trees, with something that brings it back to this time, just a little bit, just poses more questions And, you know, I've often used the metaphor that I make poetic paintings because I want that in my paintings to come through. I want them to have, you know, a sense of beauty, but also a simplicity that if you read them over and over and over again, then you start to really see the true like purpose or potential of what's inside of them. And they can be deciphered differently depending on who's looking at them.
Yeah, they internalize it and they feel a certain emotion from it. You know, when I look at that, it's, and this is just coming from a total layman here, but it's the most random.
It's random?
To me. You got a dog, a bunny, a chair from your living room out in Colorado, out in the prairie, in the plains leading west into the mountains, you know? But it's just interesting because it does raise questions. It's like, I'm trying to think of, you know, the animals and the nature makes sense, you know, but the chair is what really like, oh, that's interesting. That's the first thing I look at is like, why is there a chair there? You know? And so the chair,
comfort maybe.
Yeah. The chair represents home.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Maybe you're saying, I wish that was my home. Like,
no.
I wish I could move my chair here.
I don't think I'm that literal about it, but I'm interested in the rabbits. I use rabbits a lot. When I was a little kid, my grandmother made me this rabbit baby.
Okay.
And I think they're interesting. They're prey animals, right? But they're also thought of as like quick-witted or
fast moving. They represent life because they reproduce so fast in so many numbers.
Yeah, you see the rabbit colony in the background. But I think I was more interested in the texture of all the fur with the landscape, like the fur on the rabbit, the fur on the dog, the fur on the blanket coming across the chair.
Yep.
How we recycle elements. You know, we're not so far removed from that. We've just made it into something that fits our needs. I think dogs, the domestic quality of dogs, and like he's sleeping right on the blanket and comfortable in the chair.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think you can get that same sense of comfort from being outside.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
breathing the fresh air,
going for a walk,
feeling the wind. Yeah.
But I'm not, I want to figure out how to combine the real world, my real life, my home life with things that pop up that are not so easily talked about in my subconscious. So just kind of trusting the process of, I wonder why I'm thinking that. I wonder why I think that would be interesting. And instead of just getting it out and having it around and sitting around, and then maybe a year from now, it'll make more sense.
That's interesting. Do you always keep your mind open to a painting where in the moment you have a certain emotion, memory, but with the fact that your emotions could change in a year, the next time you look at it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
These sketches, I do a ton of sketches, and some of them stick around. Like they're just nagging at me. Like I don't know what it is about them, but there's something about them that's interesting that I want to look at further. So the ones that I'm showing you right now are some of those that I just keep around. You know, I've hung them up.
Okay. Yeah.
I keep them around me while I'm working so that they're just sitting there kind of in the background.
Giving you that comfort. They give you that feeling, right?
Or just giving me, just so that I don't forget what I'm wanting to do with them. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, as a musician and thinking about all my years on the road, and I see these pictures from 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then when my child was young and everything, it's nostalgic, you know, but I always reflect and be like, man, like I think about the person I was then and the mental and emotional stability, the lack thereof than in the maturity level, because I was, a heavy drinker, and so when I see like a picture of Skylar, 5 years old, it's cute and it makes me tear up because she's growing up and all that stuff. But then it's also, man, like, oh man, it just puts me right back into that feeling of like, I can feel a visceral reaction to seeing these pictures and how I felt back then, the stresses I was dealing with and how I've grown since then. Do you have that same experience when you look at older work where it puts you back into a certain period of your life and how you felt and what your maturity level was and the things you didn't know yet?
It does, in a way. I've done a lot of commissions, and all the commissions I get for some reason are so sad. It's always the saddest story, but it's because the person wants to change that memory in some way. Okay. They want to remember it, but they want it to not be a painful memory. Yeah. And I think for the artwork that I create, if I'm looking at photographs, yes, sometimes I can see. Yeah,
when you see your daughter, walking into kindergarten, that really has an effect on you. But then it always turns into being reminded of how I was feeling that day. Right. Or that period of my life, the stresses or whatever was going on in my life. But so you have a different version of that.
I think that the paintings kind of replace that.
Okay. You're documenting.
I'm documenting, but I'm documenting in a more beautiful way.
Yeah, sure. And it's therapeutic in my mind. This is just my, observation, because it's no secret to my audience. I've been in therapy for 10 years. We've talked about it. It's all about getting it out. Journaling is I don't do it, but it's always a number one tool that they'll teach you is journaling. This process of writing it out flushes it out. So you find the painting.
You would write things you would never say. Yeah. And you would paint things you would never say.
Yeah. And so you feel like you get that flushing feeling.
Yes.
When it comes out of you like that. Yeah. And this is your coping skill.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a really nice coping skill.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful coping skill.
Thank you.
Mine, pacing the apartment and stressing out, not so good.
Cleaning's good.
No, and playing guitar. No one can see it, but behind this curtain, I have my bass and my guitar hanging up, and I'll be in the middle of the day after a couple Zoom meetings and just work. I'm like, I got 45 minutes before the next meeting. I'll push all the work to the side and just break out the guitar and just play here, and just clear my head. So that's a good coping skill, and I lean on that more these days. That's why I had to have it, so I could do that here. I want to be here most of the day. I wanted to be able to access that tool, that skill,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, they say pain is a good driver for artists, and I've definitely made some good work when I let it build up too much and needed to exhale on a canvas. But, you can also make really great work when you're not sad.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone has the spectrum of emotions.
Right.
Oh, this one's cool. What would this one be called? Do you have a name for it? Or?
No. At the moment, it is just Plank Girl.
Plank Girl. So is that a reflection at the bottom?
It's her shadow.
Sorry, shadow. Yes. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So to be honest, I pulled this image out of a magazine, like a furniture magazine. She's a table. She's a table base, but I love that form. It's so interesting. It's kind of like a yin yang, right? The dark and the light. Yeah. And I liked the value shift, about the dark and the top, and then the shadow, and then the light and the bottom and the figure. Right. But it makes it seem more powerful, there's sort of like contrast.
You're staring yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
But then being honest with yourself.
or holding the weight of something.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to paint it as a table and maybe put something on it that I can work from life.
That's strength. If it's a foundation you can put weight on.
Right. But, you know,
look at me getting all artsy over here, man. Man, I'm a pro now at this point.
Yeah, you are a pro.
I'm a pro.
It's the truth.
But I mean, I can, you know, my brain is open. I'm a, you know, outside the box person. So as little as I know about art, I feel emotions when I look at these things, look at these pieces, and didn't mean to call them things.
There are things. I think of them as like objects.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I didn't know if that would come across as insulting to an artist. Look at that thing, you know? But it's just fascinating to see this stuff up front and to just know someone like you, like know an actual artist. And our studios are walking distance from each other. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But anything else you wanted to say about that one? I didn't want to cut it short here.
No, I just wanted to show some life sketches, some imagination sketches, and
yeah,
these are ideas that I'm working through my head right now. So they're not fully fleshed out like the paintings we've talked about. I can't speak to them very well yet, but they will be something very soon.
You've told a beautiful story through your art and all the different styles and, you know, how you connect with it. I thought that was really cool. And, you know, it's a portfolio and you're showing the different styles that you can bring to the table, you know, and it's not just one thing. You have different approaches and different tools and actually different physical materials that it's being painted on, and you know, like the one with the wood grain, you know. So it's a showcase of your talents too.
Thank you.
You know, so
too many interests. I'm sure it's like a musician likes a lot of different types of music, and it all filters into the stuff that you create. Yeah,
like I appreciate all music. There's some music I prefer to play over listen. And then there's stuff I prefer to listen to that I might not be able to play. You know?
I see some pieces, some paintings, and I just love them. And then I try to do it and I realize that is not my temperament.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy that process one bit.
Like I enjoy playing disco is my favorite on the bass, but I don't fly down the highway and listen to the Bee Gees. But
that's funny.
I'll be blasting Metallica or Slipknot. You know, and I can play some of those things, but it's limiting. That's what I like to listen to, you know, so I always have to, or I'm working in a band and have to play country music for 4 hours a night for 50 shows a year, you know,
but you have
I don't like listening and I don't like playing it. I have to do both. You know?
So I feel like that with a lot of commissions, but I have to trick myself. I'm like, all right, what can I learn from this?
I want to end it with one last. I'm glad you brought up the word commissions. So thank you for showing all the paintings. I hope you all enjoyed that. But now I'm curious, and I've always been curious about what it means to the meaning behind commission. I've heard it before. Like I commissioned this artist to make something for me, right?
Right.
Why? To me, in my brain, it's just like I hired the person. I paid a rate to have a painting made for me. But the word commission is used. Like, what does that mean? The commission, when someone commissions you to paint something, is that really just a business transaction, or is there something else to it?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. I'm not sure why the term commission has stuck around for artists. Maybe it has to do with how people made things back in the day, you know, commissioned by the court to paint this portrait. But for me, I really have to get in tune with the person's story that they're trying to tell, because these are easy. These are my story, you know. I feel it, I see it. It's easy for me to translate. But for somebody else, you know, I have to learn a little bit about them. I have to be able to emotionally invest in their story.
Mm-hmm.
I think some artists can play country music and just do it, right?
Yes.
I'm not that type of person.
I've made a career at that.
I have to believe in it.
Yeah.
I did a commission earlier this year for a couple who lost their son. The wife got pregnant. She got COVID while she was pregnant, and they lost their baby a couple hours after he was born. And the dad called me and he said, I want a portrait of my son. But all the pictures they had of the son were, they were cold. They didn't reflect how they felt about him. They wanted to remember, how sweet he was, how perfect he was. And I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. I'll paint your son, because
what an honor,
I'm
right?
a sucker for that. I just, if as an artist, I can help you change the way that you experienced something through something beautiful and have something that is representative of that moment without all the pain,
Yeah.
or maybe they can exist together, the pain and the beauty, which I think is true in life.
But you created something for them that they're going to carry for the rest of their lives.
And I used,
that's just such an honor to have that opportunity, right? I mean, goodness.
But you have the ability to, like technically I painted him with warmth and life and like he was kind of glowing, right?
Yep.
By the craft that I learned as a painter. So
but it's such a special thing for the parents.
Right.
It's beyond,
So I feel like that is more than just, I'm going to hire you to paint this picture. It's more than a business transaction. Like it's an emotional transaction.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
The lesson on that. But I'm still stuck on the fact that, they wanted a painting that was going to be so incredibly special to them for the rest of their lives, that is always going to be visible, and is going to be on the wall or a part of them until they pass away.
Right.
A long time. And I just think it's special.
Down.
Right. So it's special that, you were chosen for that. That must have been a neat feeling, because that's an honor to my mind, because you're creating something that's going to affect the family for generations.
Right. And it allows this little boy to not be forgotten.
Yeah.
Not, just be a series of pictures or a marker. Like he's present, like, he's present.
Yeah. That's special. That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's,
well, let's end it with that.
Okay.
All
let's
right.
do it. Thank you so much.
That was a sweet story. You're very welcome. I want to do more content with you. I told you, we're going to do all kinds of different things. Why not? Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for hanging in here till the end. Again, AngeeMontgomery.com. Please check her website out. It's well done, and sign up for a newsletter. Tell us a little more about your website and newsletter.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a website. My website is pretty cool, I must say. It has bells and whistles. You can view paintings. You can also zoom in really close. You can see what they look like on your wall if you're interested in one. And then if you sign up for my newsletter, that's the best way to stay in touch with me. And if you like my stories or you like the way my brain thinks, I write. I love writing as well as painting. So I write stories through my newsletter and I send them out. And, I think, unfortunately, our emails are just packed full of nonsense most days. But
yes,
I really feel like my newsletters are like something exciting to open.
Yeah, that pops out of the inbox.
Yeah.
All right.
Takes you out of your normal, salesy.
Yeah, the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Because emails often bring stress. All right.
Right. You can read
at least it does in my world.
Read a little story. I think they're fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this. Thank you for bringing all your paintings, and thanks for being a friend.
Yeah. Thank you, Derrick.
And thank you all for watching. Take care now.